when Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in one beautiful place, devotees asked him, "What is it like to see God?" And he was talking to a number of actors, and he said, "What's it like to see God?" He said, "It's like the hush that happens right when the curtain goes up." He says, "You'll notice that people are talking about everything under the sun. There's just kind of a rumble and a roar, all these different conversations taking place, people noticing one another and what one another happens to be wearing. People are coming in various numbers from various places, sitting all over this particular theater. All this fascination, all kinds of things to be preoccupied with. And then suddenly the curtain goes up, everything is dropped, and it's this audible hush. That's what it's like to see God. All the thoughts of the mind, all the feelings of the body, all other preoccupations, suddenly this hush. And that's what it's like to see God. And those who see God, all these other things, all these other thoughts, all these other feelings, suddenly God appears in the mind, the rest disappears. Maybe for a few seconds, maybe for longer. The whole science of meditation is to every day sit there and by God's grace experience this hush. That's the beginning of God vision, being able to see God. And at that time, what are you seeing? Generally, either brilliant or soft light and not much form. Seeing God in formless aspect usually. When a person's meditating, this hush becomes so common that one is just used to, oh, I'm going to sit and meditate, and then this hush steals across one's mind and one's being just, how absolutely marvelous. Why not? Why not? And meditation objects are designed to help you experience this hush most easily. The question in your meditation object is technically, what most easily hushes you? Now, there are different kinds of hushes, like you see a beautiful sunset, and somebody was telling you about something they read in the newspaper or whatever, and suddenly the way a beam of light goes out, you don't notice what they're saying. That is not God realization. That is intoxication with beauty. But that experience is similar to God realization in that if it only were God per se, wholeness, rather than part, which is the sunset. Music, you hear this incredible sound just reverberating. It's just so fantastic. Somebody was talking to you, and suddenly they're playing I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and you were listening to them very clearly, and suddenly there's this awareness only of the song sung by the Carpenters or whomever. So if you have the capacity to be hushed in some way, intellectually or in terms of beauty or in terms of goodness, that hush is a great asset, because when you get so you can have that much interest in God, the hush will come all the sooner. So it's a very important question for a person to answer. Do you have in your daily life or in your weekly life, maybe it doesn't happen every day, some capacity to be hushed, so totally aware of that particular area or that particular point in that area that the mind and the heart are just poised on it, are enthralled by it. If you do, then just keeping that in mind and being aware of it while thinking of God will very often stimulate the ability to think of God and have this hush, this sweet divine hush. The divine hush is very much like adoration. When you just adore God so much, God is so beautiful that you can't speak. You don't want any other thought. You're just adoring God. And you're adoring God so that you're not jabbering. Your being is just poised on the Lord. Well, I think very often Ramakrishna speaks too simply for us. And when he talks about this hush, we should listen to it very deeply, this particular hush. In the divine bhava, the divine moods, thinking of God with adoration, there's this hush. So many times in the Gospel of Ramakrishna, he's experiencing this particular hush. Now it gets a little heavier. Well, no, now it gets the same weight, it just sounds a little heavier. That God exists. I'm reading from the Gospel of Ramakrishna. I don't know what page it would be in your book. It's Mahindra at Dakshineswar, Part 2. That God exists may be known by looking at the universe. Isn't that beautiful? If you're wondering whether God exists or not, like I did for years, because I saw such chaos and pain and such a lack of reason and a lack of fair play, that I couldn't be convinced, even looking at the universe, that God existed. But he says if a person would look intently, look deeply into the universe, you'll be convinced that God exists. I think it's true now, but I think we need a few guidelines, because you can't do it out of Mad Magazine or Playboy and the Merv Griffin Show. You have to have a little more perception capacity to be able to look at the universe and then know that God exists. And for most people, that's plenty, if they can finally realize there's some higher power expressing this universe. That's very helpful. But it is one thing to hear of God. I mean, these are going to be quite obvious, but there's a progression here. One thing to hear of God, another thing to see God, and still another thing to talk to God. To hear of God, to see God, still another thing to talk to God. And being a man who loved to make things really simple, some have heard of milk, some have seen it, and some again have tasted it. And so it is, so many people have heard of God, they very often talk about Him between rounds. And there are all kinds of things that people speak of God because they've heard of God. And some people say God has so many heads, or that God is crazy, or like one guy told me, he's a school teacher, he said God is chaos. Not change, but chaos, because he couldn't see any rhyme or reason to the way this universe was going. Some have heard of milk. Some have heard of God. And the things we've heard from people who don't know, We've heard ghastly things. I mean, that was part of my problem on the spiritual path. He had a bad reputation, God did. He was scary, he was mean, and he was not all that potent. He couldn't really help all that well, when chips were down. Although he did bless our preacher's potato crop. To me, that was extremely significant, that everybody's field around the preacher's potatoes did not fare very well, but the preacher's potatoes were phenomenal. Now, to me, that meant something. It could have meant fertilizer. I don't know. But some have heard of milk. So the poor guy, he was really trying to convince me of God's love and mercy when I was in a position to say, show me. And it's hard to see God's love and mercy at times. But you may have heard of it, but now and then it's hard to come across it. And then again, if a person be willing, I think now, to begin a sincere, you have to be honest, a sincere investigation, looking at the universe, one will come to the conclusion that God exists. Because I was not exposed at that time to the law of karma. I didn't realize that in my thoughts and in my feelings, I was stirring up so much of a storm that it was my own storm that was keeping me from seeing God in this universe. But I would think if a person knows a little bit about the law of cause and effect, that your thinking is a cause. If you're busy thinking there is no God and show me, you will very likely have trouble seeing God because you're determined that He not appear. You have to be aware of the law of cause and effect, the law that your thinking becomes your actions, and your actions and your thinking causes what comes back at you. And you become aware that if you can send out different thoughts and different feelings, at least of a neutral or an open possibility, then you get these answers. God is not that stingy. He's willing to show people, be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm of that opinion now. But at that time, I didn't think it was working very well. I would think, you see, if you pray all night, God should come. I mean, if you're willing to kneel at the altar one night long, He has to come. That's only fair. And so I did it every night for several months. He wasn't interested. I don't know what was wrong. I know this, that praying in a kneeling position is a very nice way to keep your spine straight, but it's very hard on the knees. Boy, very hard. Anyway, that God exists may be known by looking at the universe. You know, you may find then God exists, then you may wonder, yes, but does He care? Well, if you wonder if God cares, I think you can look at the universe some more and find that out. I now think so, but you have to be free of your bias, because if you have a bias or a grudge, then it's difficult. If not, at that time I found impossible. So, some have heard of milk, some have seen it. Well, when you finally see it, then, you can relax it. It exists. It exists. And so that's the profound, magnificent thing that happens when people begin meditation. One day they know whether it's what the relationship's going to be down the line. Oh, what a relief! God exists. It's a magnificent feeling. If you've been wondering and doubting it, it's magnificent. He does exist. Or this reality, which is beyond words and beyond my intellect, is. You almost feel you can take a holiday at that point because you feel like you've come the longest way. You generally have to see the milk before you can drink it, especially in this analogy. Pretty hard, unless you see God, to talk with God. But seeing is deceiving because it may be that you hear God or you feel God intensely. And this is included in God experience. The vision of God can be a felt vision or a sound vision. Unfortunately, we use the word vision because we're eye-oriented, but you may very well be the kind of person who deals dominantly in sound or in intense feeling, and you don't have to see. Later on you probably will, but you don't have to. So you feel happy when you see the milk. It is, but you still haven't partaken of it. You haven't taken its beauty or its nourishment into your being. So the next thing that happens is to actually drink the milk. And you can't really be a milk expert. You can't really say that there's any milk there or what the value of milk is unless you've partaken of it. And in our pulpits around the world, it's sad that so many of us guys are busy talking about God and so few are drinking deeply. It's a tragic thing, and it's an awesome thing to ponder here, because I was really hindered so many ways by people who were talking milk, who couldn't show me milk, and certainly couldn't give me a soul-filling quaff of same. You feel happy when you see the milk, though. But you're nourished and strengthened only when you drink it. So you will get peace of mind, he says here. I wonder what he actually said in Bengali. Because it would be something perhaps similar to peace of mind, but peace of mind is not a very high thing. But it's a start, isn't it? You'll get peace of mind only when you have seen God. Because your mind is partial. The mind is so busy thinking of many, many, many details. It's like the pre-curtain crowd. You're sitting there in the theater, all these activities going on, and you're aware of them. And until the curtain goes up, there will not be this hush throughout your being. There will not be this capacity to enjoy and to pay attention to. So you'll get peace of mind only. This is almost a message to mankind. I mean, all kinds of people are looking for some kind of balance of the mind or some kind of gyroscopic effect where despite all the angles that we live our life, there is this powerful momentum that keeps us balanced and focused. And, gyroscopes are used in compasses because despite the way the ship is, it can always point north. And so you will get this gyroscopic soul awareness only when the mind, the prana, the body have seen God. If you do not have peace of mind, that's an index. You have not seen God. Because if you have seen God, there is this marvelous balance to all the different thoughts, all the different areas of the mind. So that's a marvelous thing, this peace of mind, when you have seen God. And God's first appearance is usually vast light, or vast stillness, or a vast audible hush. Audible hush, not a physical sound, but an inner spiritual sound. But now, he used the word bliss here. I wonder if he said ananda or bliss. You will enjoy bliss and gain strength only when you have talked to him. You'll enjoy bliss and gain strength only when you have talked to him. So by the time you get to know God and have this great peace of mind, then your vehicle is developed enough for another marvelous thing to take place. And this marvelous thing is you have become more subtle, more spiritually conscious, more aware of your own being. And this being now becomes capable of entering into this marvelous conversation with God. So this is when it gets more exciting. This is a state that every human being could have if they would focus on it, where you and the Lord in form converse. To have a vision of God, your prana, your energy, your life force has to be centered in the center of the spine in a marvelous spiritual corridor called the Sushumna. You get peace of mind when you sense your perfect balance in this passageway called the Sushumna. Even if you don't know about the Sushumna, you got one. And when you have peace of mind, the cross currents that are going on throughout your nervous system, the different flows of prana, are put at peace because once you're in the Sushumna, you sense God's presence. And at first, God looks colorless and does not have form. It's just a vast, vast, almost awe sense you have. But it's a sense that, oh, finally I'm home. Because you are a child of the infinite, expressing through finitude. So this is why the Hatha yogi is so busy doing Hatha yoga. Ha and Ta means sun and moon, and they refer to the two currents of your being, the willing nature and the feeling nature. The willing and acting nature, the thinking and feeling nature are so balanced that you now do Hatha yoga, Ha-Ta yoga, which most people are doing with many little dots between the Ha and the Ta. Finally, it becomes hatha with just a hyphen, and then finally it becomes a hatha, or maybe like hatha, as they say at the Y. Anyway, we took out the dots and the hyphens, and we've got hatha yoga. We've got the experience of these two main currents in our being balancing in a confluence of the river of realization, which is in your deep spine, called the Sushumna. And there, when the consciousness is in the Sushumna, we're talking about the anatomy of realization right now, but you don't have to worry about whether it's going to happen this way or not. It'll just happen if you proceed devotionally and forget about your spine. It's just that it's so much quicker to have your body cleaned up and balanced so you can have this centering in this Sushumna passage. Once you're in the Sushumna, you will sense that you're home, because this river of light within your spine is one with the river of light everywhere, with the ocean of light. In fact, your river flows up your spine into the various centers and out into the ocean of consciousness, of love, of God. So that's simply marvelous, but I don't want to just see light. I want to see God. I would like to see a form of God talk with me. I want to communicate. And so that's the next thing that happens. When, as a result of having this experience of seeing the milk, you've got to get so you can see this light or hear this light, hear this consciousness steadily. Then what happens is it takes form and plays with you. It will densify and come before you. One of the easiest ways to do this is called puja, doing spiritual puja, worship of God in form. You will enjoy bliss and gain strength only when you have talked to Him. You will enjoy bliss and gain strength only when you have talked to Him. You will enjoy bliss and gain strength only when you have talked to Him. I mean, what more can I say about that? There it is. You will enjoy bliss and gain strength only when you have talked to Him. What else shall I say? And so this hush experience moves on three main levels: Ashti, Bhati, and Priya. Ashti is when in this hush you realize God is the only reality. That's a sense of wholeness that puts all these separate things and separating, dividing things aside in this phenomenal hush. God is the only reality. And then a more subtle movement of this hush comes next to, and God has created all this. Then God begins to show you all the forms, the entire universe expressing in form. God has created all this. And then a deeper hush still. And I love Him. I love Him. And I talk with Him. He walks with me and He talks with me. Remember that hymn? And tells me I am His own. Anyway, that's it for today. Let's meditate. Think about the hush. Try to recall such a hush or generate, by God's grace, such a hush, and determine what level of hushing you're on, Ashti, Bhati, or Priya. But the main thing is to get the hush. Adoration of God so deep that it's like the curtain going up and silence filling your whole life so you can attend what's happening before you or within you. Om. Jai Guru. Jai. Beloved Lord, bless us to experience the hush of love and adoration, the hush of concentration, to behold you in form or formless, and to be able to talk with you. Amen. Ramakrishna was talking. He said, "What is your attitude toward God? I am he, or master or servant. For the householder," he went on, "for the householder, it is very good to look on God as the master. The householder is conscious of doing the duties of life himself. Under such conditions, how can the householder say, 'I am he,' when he thinks he's doing the duties of life himself? To him who says, 'I am he,' the world appears to be a dream. His mind, his body, even his ego are dreams to him. Therefore he cannot perform worldly duties in a way. So it is very good for the householder to look on himself as the servant and on God as the master." Ramakrishna continued later, "Well, what suits your taste, God with form or the formless reality? But to tell you the truth, he, God, who is formless, is also endowed with form. To his bhaktas, he reveals himself as having a form. It is like a great ocean, an infinite expanse of water without any trace of shore. It's that infinite reality. It's like an infinite expanse of water without any trace of shore. That's God in the absolute aspect. Here and there, some of the water has been frozen. Intense cold has turned it into ice. Just so, under the cooling influence, so to speak, of the Bhakta's love, the infinite appears to take a form. Again, the ice melts when the sun rises. It becomes water as before. Just so, one who follows the path of knowledge, the path of discrimination, does not see the form of God any more. To him, everything is formless. The ice melts into formless water with the rise of the sun of knowledge. But mark this, form and formlessness belong to one and the same reality.